My name is Jay with Server Matter, and the purpose of this video is to look at what happens when you're trying to restore from a Kopia backup repository and you get an error that stops the train, and all of a sudden you can't get to the rest of your files, at least for the one restoration snapshot that you're trying to. Now this is specific to this error. Not sure how this is going to work out in other errors, but I suspect it's going to be of value in many cases. So in this particular instance, let's bring that full screen and minimize myself. We see this error as I'm restoring a snapshot. It tells me unable to open a particular snapshot file. It gives me a path to the file, which is PatternFormulaController.php. Unable to open it, unexpected error, getting cached content from blob. Now, the cached content, there may be a way of clearing cache or dealing with this. There may be other ways to deal with this, but I'm just going to show you what I have found out. Now, it looks like the number of restored files that it stopped at is visible here. We've got 11,232 files. I'm going to show you, this is actually the website that I'm trying to bring up. That's clearly failing. So now let's go to the command prompt. This is the public HTML file. Let me back out and come back in again. Okay, so this is stranger yet. I mean, clearly it says it copied and wrote these files to this directory, public HTML. There it is right there. I know we're on the same server, the smvirtual.biz server, yet there's nothing there. Very strange. I'm going to do that again because I've done this before and that didn't happen. So let me get myself out of that directory just in case it's posing some kind of a problem and restore these files one more time. Oh, I might see the problem. It's mounted at the same time. So let me unmount that directory. That might have been what was holding it up. So I'm surprised it allows you to do both. If I click on them, it's mounted, and I choose restore, it does let me go back there, but I think that's what created that particular odd situation. So let me unmount that directory. My guess is it probably restored them to that mounted directory. No, that can't be it. So we're going to go through the browser, restore files and directory, click our directory, overwrite, delete anything if there's anything in there. Okay, it's empty. I'm not missing it. We've got a few hidden files. Let's get rid of them too. Okay, this will delete anything and everything for sure. All right, now we've got an empty directory. We know where we're starting. Come back over here, and we will restore the contents once again from the browser. Okay, that's what I expected. We're getting the error. It copied some of the files. Let's see what we get in here. All right, there we have some files. Okay, if we run the command, this find command, it tells us that we have a total of 82 files available to us. I know that's way under the number of files that we need. So it stopped. That's all it gave us. So in a browser environment, if we're going to restore our files and folders using that method, and we have a problem with a file, it breaks right there, and that's the end of the story. And that gives you kind of a panic situation, which it did me as well. But I found that if I choose the mount as, I'm not sure why I've got that in there. Oh yeah, it's coming from over here. All right, I'll get rid of you. If I choose this mount option, it mounts the entire restoration to a particular folder. And if I take a look at that, now that I've mounted it, come back over here, and I run that same command on that directory structure, it shows me that there are 11,243 files. So apparently that's available to us. Let's try and copy it over. We're going to start by removing everything that's in this directory using that same command. We'll get rid of any hidden files. Okay, nothing there. Now let's go ahead and rsync over everything from the original directory. Let's make sure we get the right directory name there. All right, there. Okay, so that's going to take everything from that mounted directory and copy it to our public HTML using rsync. I purposely told it not to show us the progress unless there's an error in the progress. And here, well, some of the file names are named errors, so that doesn't count. But we do see right off the bat, rsync sender failed to open, and right there is that same PatternFormulaController.php and talks about an input-output error. Okay, so rsync is finished doing what it's doing. I ran a find command on both my current public HTML directory, and it comes up with 11,243, and on the Kopia mounted directory, and it comes up with the same number. I actually didn't expect it to come up with the same number. I expected it to come up with one file short since we get an IO error. I have looked for that file on the file system. It doesn't exist, so I don't know what that's all about. It may have something to do with what I have running on the website. Now that it's restored, it's created a file. Don't know. But I have verified that the software that wasn't running, except, excuse this file right here, is now running. So we're able to log in. We're able to see things that we couldn't see before. I know the program is working. We are having a problem on that one file that's missing, that pattern formula controller. Obviously, it depended upon. And here I did a directory, and I've looked for hidden files too. It's definitely not in the directory where I would have wanted it to be upon restoration. But the moral of the story is, better to have 11,243 files or 2 files instead of 90-something files, right? And if I take that a step further, if I go to one snapshot newer, copy that pattern formulas file back in place, pattern formulas loads up just fine, no problem. So situation averted. Okay, so that's the main reason for this video, to let you know how to restore. If you run into a problem restoring through the browser, the party's not over, you've got a plan B. You can get all your files except for that one. And I have found that restoring from the snapshot after that or the snapshot before that had no problem at all, including that one file, no problem. It's only that particular snapshot. Now, I've been reading online at forums that there may be ways to fix the repository and that snapshot issue, so I'm running that right now. And it starts off with the command, copy a snapshot, fix invalid files. Oh, wait a second. This is the part that actually needed an adjustment, so let me go to the bottom of that. Okay, so I ran that first one, and I realized there was something I could do better because the response was fix 71 snapshots, but snapshot manifests were not updated. Pass commit to update the snapshots. So I certainly want as much done as I can possibly get done. Well, I've come to learn out there's another command, very similar, copy a snapshot, fix invalid files, same thing as I did before, but this time verify files equal 100 and commit. And that's going to evidently download every single file, decompress it, presumably correct it, and move it back into the repository. I think that that's what's happening. If anybody knows what's happening beyond that, please let me know. So it's taken a hell of a long time. In fact, let me just take a look at how big it is. Yeah, so it is 28 gigabytes. That's just how big. It's very little in the whole scheme of things. but perhaps, you know, it's got to go through every single snapshot over whatever, in my case, I think I've got 111 is the first one. We have, well, the number 74 snapshots total it's going through, and every single file and every, you know, I guess it can be a very long process, especially if you have a lot of data. So you may or may not, you may find a shorter way to deal with this, but I'm going to head and run this. I'm going to go ahead and run this just to see if it in fact resolves that one file problem. And because if it's more than one file you're dealing with, that'll become real important. So it's going down this list, and I'm running into a lot of invalid files. Due to object is missing with back by missing blobs. Them darn blobs, they get you every time. And a lot of these invalid files I'm seeing. So it's clearly finding things. And one, removing invalid file indexes. So it's removing stuff along the way. Yeah, a lot of references to invalid files, and I'm not sure why that is. All right, so I see it's iterating through the different things that it does. I see here we have, you know, we're talking about the repo from 2.8, which is yesterday, which is the one I'm interested in. And, you know, we've got 125, we've got 2.1, and so on. It's working through these. And it talks about replaced manifest from this because of a difference in this. And so whatever it does back in the background programmatically, it is clearly concentrating on that manifest thing that it was talking about earlier. We're getting into some of the weeds here. And then processing snapshot, and then it's going through these directories one at a time. And removing invalid file due to is backed by missing blob. I don't know what the long-term results of what it's doing. So if somebody watching this can speak intelligently to us about what it's removing and why it matters or doesn't matter, that will be of great value to the community, I'm sure. Here we get that failed to get blob with ID invalid length, which is identical to the message I got when trying to restore the one snapshot. That's the same error message. It's a different file. You see this one's on Web Vitals, GenStats, and so on. It's a different file, but the same message. So there are some other snapshots in there that if I were to have tried to restore them, I'd have run into the same kind of thing. Yeah. Now I will say, and I don't know if it's related or not, I'm running, this is a virtual machine running within VirtualBox, and I had a problem with virtual machine reporting 100% or near 100% disk full to Windows, even though it was only 10% full. There's some kind of a high watermark in a virtual machine, which if you've ever used that much, it continues to report it. And I don't know if that was part of the problem. I frankly had to replace the drive for a bigger drive just to get rid of it, even though it's reporting wrong. It at least made sure that I don't have any repercussions from that. Don't know if that's related in any way to what's going on in there. But if you've got any ideas on this, feel free to send it along. When this runs, I'm going to restore, I'm going to see if that repo will in fact restore that one bad file, and I'll report back to that in the description area. Well, I was gonna put this in the description, but since this eventually ran its course to the end and finished doing whatever it was it does with that fix software or the fix process, and here's what I found out. When it's all said and done, I was able to go back to the restore that was failing, previously failing in the web interface, which you see here, and I was able to restore it with no errors presented to me. It restored the whole thing with the single exception of the one file that it was failing on. And for that file, I see this as I drill down within the backup. It starts off with invalid, and then it gives me the name of the file that's invalid. I open that file up, and I see this inside of it. Kopia replaced the original entry with this stub because of an error. It shows me the very same error that it showed me before. So that's its internal way of saying you can't do it. The file's gone, it's gone forever, we can't retrieve it, and we're going to put this placeholder up here, and even though it says 742, well, I guess that's whatever that error is. So that's it. the fix doesn't really fix the file. The file's corrupt, that's done. But at least it doesn't stop your restoration the way that it does currently. So that's it. The moral of the story is, if you mount the file mount it as a local file system, you're going to be able to get to your stuff right away, get everything except for whatever's broke, and if you run the fix, you basically end up with the same result. You're able to get to everything that you can get to, except for that single file. And there may be more to it than that on the fix. My guess is, based on research, that if you run those fixes periodically, that there's some kind of a verification that you might be able to get notifications on, and I just haven't been able to go that far down the rabbit hole. If anybody's got links on that notification process after a verify has been run, that's probably going to be of value. That way you get a heads up before it's an emergency. But otherwise, this at least gives you a way to deal with this situation should it come up in your world. Thanks very much for watching. Like or subscribe, and we'll see you the next time. Bye-bye.